With the baptism, it's pretty much the same thing. It's like a smaller wedding, because the people which are attending, if on a wedding, could be 150 to 100 people for the party. In on a baptism of a child, will be like 80, 100 people. And the child is baptized in the Greek Orthodox religion at 40 days after the birth. So actually, after 40 days, we are going to the church. It's a beautiful ceremony there. It's a beautiful religious service, and the child is baptized in water, being sunk under the water into a big pot, into a big vase made by metal. Of course, it's not drowned, because the priest do this very fast, uh, putting his hand over the mouth and the nose of the young baby, and he putting him 3 times under the water in the name of the Saint Trinity, of course, Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. And that's because we believe that the people are 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 coming on this world into the original sin of Adam, so they have to die between the comas, uh, and then that's why they are and put it behind water, like they are putting into a grave, and then they are revival. They are coming out from the grave into a new life, into the new faith in Jesus Christ and in God. That's the reason that we are doing the baptism, sang the people under the water, and not only pouring water on the head, like is done in other religions. It's an interpretation of the full immersion baptism. Exactly. Yes, that's the right name. That's the interpretation that the like John the Baptist. Exactly. That's the interpretation that we have it. Maybe because the Greek Orthodox Church, it's very close to the first teachings of Jesus Christ, of the apostles, and of the first uh, I don't know, thinkers and monks of the Christian religion. And it's pity that this big and important Christian religion was split in so many cults. First, after in 15 first in 1054, when was the big schisma, between the big break between Orthodox and Catholics. And then, after the reform of Martin Luther, I will speak tomorrow during my brush off tour about the reform of Martin Luther and its effects here in Romania and in Transylvania. It was breaking into the Protestant religions, but some things remains. And I didn't know, Diana, that full immersion, it's made in many other Protestant religions. It's a good fact. I think it's a good fact. And the differences are not too big between us and another religions. Maybe theological, if you want, in the interpretation of the Gospels and of all the other things. Also, we have something that we call the saint tradition, which actually is all the tradition of the Christian Church since Christ till today, and which also give to our church a lot of examples of normal Christian life. So that's with the that's with the baptism in Romania, and with the weddings, two very important moments in the life of any person on this world. Of course, there are a lot of things that usually after the wedding, the young couple, it's asked, like probably in many other cultures, when you have a baby. So that's one of the first questions. And that with the babies, it was starting to become a problem in here too, because the families have usually mostly one children, in some cases two, very rare three or more. A couple of years ago, the Romanian government have done a very good thing. They paid some money for the mothers to give birth to the children. Actually, they said, if you have a child, as a mother, we give you 75% from your wage to stay home 2 years and to take care of your baby. And this was happened in between 2002 and 2014, something like this, for about 14 years. And the facts, I can see it because it was a period when the majority of the families have like 2 children, give birth to about 2 children. So it was something good which helped us to raise a little bit the natality in Romania. Something which, as I heard from my tourists, which I had in these last 16 years since I'm a licensed guide in Romania, they told me that it's something good which doesn't exist in their countries actually. So that's a story, and I don't know, for connecting with the school system, because we talk about the children. It's pretty much the same system like in many other countries, with kindergarten, with a kindergarten for the children, young children, all starting with 3 years old till 6 years old. They are going there. Starting with 6, 7 years old, they are going to the elementary school, which have about 8 years. And in the 4 years, they have a teacher, which is the same teacher, which stay with them and teach them how to